Hi, my name is Anne Russell. I'm the birth mother of 2 children with FASD and the founder of the Russell Family Fetal Alcohol Disorders Association. I'm presenting a series of videos, short, sharp videos on various aspects of FASD. There's 11 in total, and they are basically so that people can go straight to whatever it is they want to find out about. For instance, this particular presentation is on FASD and Parenting. We've got FASD in school years, employment, and all sorts of presentations that you can see in about 5 minutes and hopefully get the information you want, or be directed to the information on the net. As I said, this particular presentation is on parenting and FASD, and I'd like to tell you that parenting a child with FASD, as Diane Melbourne has said, or to paraphrase her, is like navigating around Melbourne with a map of Darwin, to use Australian terms. It's very, very difficult, and you can basically throw out just about every good parenting technique ever discussed, ever mentioned, ever written about, ever spoken about, and add in some of the most strangest ways of parenting I've ever seen. I'm sure that had we known about FASD sooner, our children would have had a much better time of things. But because my young son wasn't diagnosed until he was 17 years old, and Mick wasn't diagnosed until he was 21, they had normal parenting techniques which actually made things worse for them. Because they weren't diagnosed, other people, including parents and teachers and friends and other members of the family, all expected them to behave in a way that was the way other people behaved. They didn't realise, and we didn't realise, that their brains work differently, and hence the parenting techniques needed to be different. So some of the parenting techniques I used, which really can't be called parenting techniques, one in particular seemed to get the best results, and that was bribery. I'm certainly not recommending any of these techniques. I'm just telling you about the ones that I used that actually worked. Now this particular technique I started only after I found out, or after we had a diagnosis of FAS for my young son, for Seth. And this involved him having to go to the doctors on a regular basis for medication and for into the mental health, community health organisation. And he had to attend these appointments because his own health, mental and physical health, was at risk. Just to digress, I know a case manager who had a young girl with cancer on her caseload, who had to attend follow-up appointments to make sure, I think for radium treatment or some other, or chemotherapy, and she didn't attend them. And no matter how often the doctor explained, and the case manager explained, the consequences of not attending those appointments, she still didn't attend. And the case manager couldn't understand why that would happen, why somebody would do that, until she found out about FASD. So anyway, this was what happened with Seth. And the only way I could get him to go to these appointments was to tell him that I would buy him a packet of cigarettes if he fully participated in the appointment and the consultation, and if he attended. So I actually bought him a packet of cigarettes, and I had to say that at that time he was suicidal. I mean, we were really going to lose him. We're talking about much, much more than just a couple of cigarettes. We're talking about suicide. he'd actually erected a noose in the ladder in the shed, and I was always afraid that he was going to kill himself. He would often come home with scratches all up his arm, cuts and bruises, and he'd say that he had an accident, he fell, but I knew, I mean, you know what self-harm looks like. So anyway, that worked very well. If I had an appointment that he had to go to a psychiatrist, the doctor, psychologist, whatever it was, and he didn't want to go, wouldn't go, then that would be his reward for going. The most important thing that I believe, regardless of how difficult parenting is that the child must show respect. There must be some respect for other people, for animals, for parents, and for people like teachers and that sort of thing. And that was an immutable law. That was something that, regardless of whatever the issue was, whatever brain injury he had, he must show respect. So, that wasn't easy, especially when your child doesn't understand cause and consequence. So he might do something, but not understanding not understanding the consequence to other people, or himself for that matter. So that was very, very difficult, and it was mainly just repetition, consistency, and repetition and consistency. They were the main things, and in fact, that's probably the main thing for parenting is consistency, routine, and structure. Every afternoon when he came home from school, we would sit down together and have something to eat. Then he would go out and play for a little bit. Then he would do his homework. Well, actually, more often than not, he wouldn't do it. It just refused. It just wouldn't happen. No matter what I did or what strategies I put into place, I just couldn't get him to do that. So consistency, and every afternoon, sit down, homework, have a glass of milk or a cup of tea or whatever, and a sandwich. Also, people with FASD are very visual. They find it very difficult to remember things, but if it's a visual thing, then it seems to be a lot easier. So what I did was put on his wall the things that he had to do. If he had chores to do, like like take out the rubbish, that sort of thing, I'd put it visually on the wall. Unfortunately, because he was 17 before we found out these things, it was all that much harder and often impossible to actually get him to do any chores or anything like that. So a lot of the techniques, a lot of the damage we had done, unwittingly done, by parenting him in the normal way for 17 years. Role models are very important. People with FASD are said to be moral chameleons, which means that they can change their values and their morals from day to day, depending on the group they're with. Their values aren't intrinsic. They seem to be more reliant on what other people believe. I found medication extremely important. Without medication, parenting just didn't have a hope. And medication, of course, also helped him control his mood, and so reduced the chance that he might attempt suicide. Transitions are very important. I found that if he was doing something like playing with Lego or playing with trucks or whatever he was doing, and then I said, because I was fairly inconsistent in everything that I did, sort of very spontaneous, and I would say to him, oh, let's go out and do some shopping, or let's go out to the park, he would find it really difficult to stop that activity. And that is actually, a lot of people with FASD find it very difficult to move from one task to another. But what does help is managing transitions. And that might mean, I don't know, it might mean ringing a bell or saying, okay, this is 10 minutes before we want to make the transition, okay, we're going to go to the park in 10 minutes time, or we're going to go shopping in 10 minutes time. And that sort of helps them get their mind around the fact that things are going to change very shortly. The environment is also very important. Their bedrooms, I put posters up on the walls, I put mobiles, I put everything possible to stimulate them, to get them interested in things, when in fact that was the worst possible thing I could have done. The environment is very important, and because this condition is organic and it's brain-based, they can't change. So we're the ones who have to change. The environment has to change. And so the best environment for someone with FASD is one with no distractions. So all of these things will help when it comes to parenting. If you'd like more information, please email me on elizabeth@rffada.org, F for Fred, or visit us on our website or our Facebook page. Or if you're interested, please email me and ask for some information about the training that we developed and is currently being delivered around Australia by Training Connections Australia, a registered training organisation. Thank you very much.